The field of research that I work in, studying fear and anxiety in humans and animals, is very focused on technical approaches. We have very amazing new techniques that can turn genes on and off in the brain. We can do all kinds of wonderful things scientifically, but it's very important that we understand what it is that we're studying when we study the brain. So our understanding of the brain is only as good as our understanding of the process or the behavior that we're trying to study. So I think the future progress of the field will depend on a sharper conception of the psychological processes that we're trying to understand. I think that over the years, scientific concepts develop because we have an interest in those concepts. And those concepts sometimes are generated, if you're a psychologist, you start from your personal experiences. And so what happens is we start with the interest in fear, for example, and that leads us to pursue fear as we know it psychologically. But as we study something scientifically, we sometimes have to get to the bottom. And I think because of where we start with our concept of fear, we have misunderstood what it is in terms of research. I think that scientists have misunderstood it, and as a result, the public misunderstands it. So we often talk about fear when we observe a person or an animal's behavior, but it turns out that behavior is a poor indicator of what is in the subjective mind. In other words, what one is actually experiencing. Because the brain systems that are involved in the conscious experience of fear are not the ones that are controlling behavioral responses. You may freeze, for example, when you're in danger, or you may run away. But fear is not what causes you to freeze and run away. Fear is happening in a parallel line in your brain, a separate channel in the brain. And because these two things happen simultaneously, we're running away and we feel afraid, it's natural to think that they are part of one package in the brain. But when we study it scientifically, we see that the behavioral and physiological responses characteristic of fear are controlled by a separate system in the conscious experience of fear. And this causes problems when we try to, for example, develop medications based on animal behavior, because the animal's behavior can change, but we don't know what the animal experiences. We assume that if an animal is less behaviorally timid, it will be less fearful. But when we develop drugs that way, people are not becoming less fearful and anxious, and so the medications are viewed as unsuccessful. So I think we need to sometimes step back from our scientific concepts and ask what's really going on underneath.